I think that it's heinous and it's cruel.
A Florida law is keeping Tamika Ganzy from seeking justice after her mom's death.
I feel as if they're saying that if you do not have a legal spouse or a child under the age of 25, then your life is worthless.
Critics call it Florida's free kill law. It limits who can sue over a death from medical negligence.
So these same people, if they survive, they can sue for medical negligence?
Right.
But if they die, their families can't.
Correct.
We're fact-checking the arguments keeping this law on the books and keeping potentially dangerous doctors out of the courthouse. Let's see what's brewing. I'm Jenna Bourne, and I'm an investigative reporter at 10 Tampa Bay. If you're new here, welcome to our caffeine-fueled deep dive into issues that matter to you.
She just has something to shine through. If you look at her eyes are the best part I love to look at in this photo.
A photo is now the only way Tamika Ganzy can look into her mother's eyes. Gail Ganzy died 3 months ago in a Polk County hospital.
She knew of all my goals, all my dreams, all my aspirations. And she always did whatever she could to make sure that they all came true. And knowing that I don't have that person is the hardest part.
Ganzy says her mother went in for a routine procedure, but she died after the hospital overdosed her on medicine. The medical examiner's office did not perform an autopsy.
I called the attorneys to see what recourse there was. I wanted systems put in place. I wanted things to put in place to prevent this from ever happening to someone else.
When you would call these lawyers, what would they tell you?
We would love to take your case for your mom, but because of the law, we're not going to be able to. And I was like, well, what law? And they informed me that there was something called the free kill law.
Never heard of it? Neither had any of the families we talked to until it happened to them.
My name is Marcy Shepler, and my son Jojo was a free kill.
My name is Cindy Jenkins. My barely 25-year-old daughter Taylor was a Florida free kill.
I'm Travis Creighton, and my mom was a free kill.
My name is Mary Jo Kane Reese, and my dad was a Florida free kill.
My name is Melody McDonald, and my dad was a Florida free kill.
My name is Tamika Ganzy, and my mother was a free kill, and I'm a potential free kill.
They're all talking about subsection 8 of Florida's Wrongful Death Act, which I know doesn't exactly roll off the tongue. It limits who can sue if their loved one dies from medical malpractice. If you are 25 or older, unmarried or widowed, and have no children under the age of 25, you're what critics of the law call a free kill. That means your loved ones can't sue the doctor or healthcare facility for mental pain and suffering damages.
Where does the nickname free kill come from?
What it's suggesting, obviously, is that the healthcare provider got a pass. They got a freebie. They got the get out of jail free card. They got to avoid this. They got a free kill.
Jack Cook is a medical malpractice attorney with Morgan & Morgan who represents patients and their families. Cook says his office has to turn down several families a week because of this law.
In every one of those cases that can't be brought, you lose that important learning process of the claim, the deterrent process that prevents these mistakes from ever happening again.
And get this, if those same patients survived, they could sue.
But if they die, their families can't.
Correct, under the circumstances that we talked about.
Can you help me understand why that is?
You know, like I said, it's a balancing act, and anytime you're looking at any segment of the law, there has to be a line drawn somewhere, and the legislature chose to draw it where it is.
Ybor City attorney Andy Bolin has been representing Florida doctors and hospitals for decades, healthcare providers who've been protected by this law since the state legislature passed it in 1990.
They recognized a perceived medical malpractice crisis that was looming in the state.
Lawmakers were worried that doctors would leave Florida if malpractice insurance rates spiked here. Not ideal for a state popular with retirees.
The legislation was hearing very strongly from the medical community. If you don't pass these laws, we will not come to your state, we will not stay in your state, or we won't insure doctors in your state at a reasonable rate.
So we fact-checked whether that's still a legit concern. Data from a 2022 Florida Department of Health report indicates state law hasn't stopped doctors from leaving. Over the past 10 years, the number of doctors planning to move out of Florida has increased 57%. Nearly 5% of physicians surveyed said they plan to leave Florida in the next 5 years. Their top reason for leaving was family. Financial reasons clocked in at second, barely above looking for a change. Fewer than 7% blamed liability exposure.
I think it's dangerous to start removing those protections and then finding out whether or not, in fact, we needed them.
The number of active physicians in Florida is average compared to the rest of the country. A 2021 report from the Association of American Medical Colleges ranks Florida right in the middle, number 25 out of 50 states, plus DC and Puerto Rico.
Medical malpractice premiums are on the rise, and we're talking to our clients who are seeing 40 and 50% increases year over year in their medical malpractice premiums.
Well, I wanted to stop you there for a sec because according to data from the Medical Liability Monitor, over the past 3 years, the majority of medical liability insurers did not increase Florida doctors' rates.
So all I can tell you is what I hear from my clients, and what they are seeing is increases year over year, especially when you talk about high-risk specialties like obstetricians and surgeons. Their medical malpractice rates are certainly a strain.
So what options do families have if this law keeps them out of the court system? They can file complaints with the Florida Department of Health, which can bring them before the Board of Medicine to take action against a doctor's license and fine them. But the family doesn't see a dime of those fines. That money goes to the state. Families can also report the hospital to the Agency for Healthcare Administration, which can punish a facility as a whole. But family after family tells us the process of reporting to those state agencies is frustrating and inadequate.
There's no warning, there's no fine, there's no nothing.
Mary Jo Kane-Reese was so frustrated after her father's death, she turned to TikTok to spread the word.
I went to the Department of Health in the state of Florida. They said they couldn't do anything. They referred me to the Agency for Healthcare Administration. I filed 2 complaints with the Agency for Healthcare Administration, who answered me and said, sorry, we have already certified the hospital and there's nothing we can do for you. Wait, what?
Florida lawmakers have filed 5 bills so far for the upcoming state legislative session that would modify or repeal all or part of subsection 8 of Florida's Wrongful Death Act. At least 6 similar bills have died in committee over the past 2 years.
We're opening our doors for people to move here, for senior citizens to come here, knowing their potential free kills. It's disgusting.
Ganzy says she's hopeful the upcoming legislative session will be different.
$1 million will never bring my mom back. $1 million will never stop me from crying or feeling the loss of my mom. Money won't cushion that in the least. Making sure that someone else doesn't go through it with their mother, that is what I want.
Thanks for watching What's Brewing. Subscribe to 10 Tampa Bay's YouTube channel and add the What's Brewing playlist to your library so you don't miss an episode. And I'll see you next time.